We're fighting here. We're fighting here. We're fighting that. I wish I would know you would come and say, you the only one that was there. They were we were together with this. Oh, and they all got this.
So one occasion, they defeated the Nigerian, and they said, Asante.
I don't have the right words with which to welcome you all to Zimbabwe, but nevertheless, I'm going to try. Gentlemen and ladies, brothers and sisters, colleagues and comrades, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 4th Afrocentricity International Conference here at Bronte Hotel that we are hosting as the Zimbabwe division of Afrocentricity International, which, as you may be aware from the literature that you have been receiving, is a Pan-African and Afrocentric organization that seeks to raise African people's consciousness globally with a view to winning the minds of African people and African human and intellectual capital for the purposes of an African Renaissance. So, I want to say, welcome to you all to Africa. Welcome to you all to Zimbabwe. Welcome to you all to Harare. Welcome to you all home. Because among us, there are colleagues, brothers and sisters and comrades who are coming from the diaspora, who were scattered and dispersed by the Holocaust of slavery. And we are making tracks, reconnecting with Africa, because this is where we all belong. This is where we all began, and this is where home is. I want to say welcome to you all. Feel free.
Thank you.
And you do not have to live on the continent to be an African. Being an African is not a matter of sharing the land, as Alan Bozek would say. It is a question of sharing Africa's fate and Africa's destiny. Africa is Africa most in her children, wheresoever they may dwell. Bozek continues. Africa is Africa most in the courage and the dedication of your fathers. Africa is Africa most in the commitment of your mothers. Africa is Africa most in the courage and commitment and the vision of your youth, of which I represent, and many others in here. So among us are elders, youths, all the generations represented. Welcome home, welcome to Africa, welcome to Zimbabwe, welcome to Harare. As we roll into life this Friday morning. Yes, it's a Friday. Yeah, we roll into life this Friday morning, anticipating Africa Day on Monday. This conference could not be coming at a most appropriate time. This is the right time for the conference.
That's right.
And we are going to be talking about us here at home. mapping the way forward, taking stock of what we have gone through, emphasizing the victories, and also underscoring the defeats. Because it is foolhardy for anyone to say because we have achieved all this, so we are okay. We also need to take stock of the areas where we have fallen short.
That's right.
So that history doesn't repeat itself. So let me extend special welcome to Dr. Amama Zama, leader of Afrocentricity International. Dr. Mazama. She is professor of Africology at Temple University in the United States, originally from Godilo, but now settled in the States. Welcome home. Oh, yeah. Special welcome to Dr. Molefe Asante, international organizer, Afrocentricity International. Welcome home, Doc.
Thank you.
Special welcome to Dr. Munashe Furusa, Professor Munashe Furusa. Vice Chancellor, Africa University, who is also going to give our opening remarks. Special welcome to Dr. Simpiwe Sesanti, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, Port Elizabeth. Special welcome to Shenut Swahili, leader of Afrocentricity, the big brother there. Yes. Special welcome to Dr. Fosi Gumede, University of South Africa, and also head of the Thabo Mbeki Africa Leadership Institute. Welcome home to Special welcome to Shenut Aline Barnes, Afrocentricity International in Cleveland, Ohio, USA. Special welcome also to Sister Matilda Afua Hilgros, International Movement for Reparations, Godilo. Special welcome to all our speakers who heeded the call that we made when we were organizing this conference. Professor Maralike, University of Zimbabwe. Dr. Chiwaura. Dr. Chiwaura, University of Zimbabwe. Dr. Magoshongwe, University of Zimbabwe. Dr. Ruth Michaka, in absentia. Dr. Augustine Trivangana, in absentia. Dr. Adisa Okebulan from San Diego State University. And everyone else, all of us in here, for coming through to this conference. We truly appreciate. So there we are. Africa gathered in Africa for Afrocentric purposes. Without being beholden on anyone. We're discussing us here, what we possibly need to do to extricate ourselves from the quandary in which we find ourselves in. So that leaves me now to invite Dr. Munashe Furusa, Prof. Munashe Furusa, to give the opening remarks to this conference. But before Professor Munashe Furusa comes to the podium, let me just go through his bio so that we understand who he is, where he's coming from, and what he's capable of. Professor Munashe Furusa is the 4th Vice Chancellor of Africa University. He brings to that university extensive experience as an academic leader in a range of positions and in many aspects of the faculty and university administration, including academic programming, financial and personnel management, and student success. He has served as Dean and Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities that is home to 19 academic programs and departments, As Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities at California State University, Domingos Hills, Professor Furusa served as the primary point of contact for all academic and administrative matters falling under the purview of the college. He also provided leadership and representation for the college within the university and the community. Professor Furusa is a first-generation college student and the first in his family to earn a master's and a doctoral degree. This background drives his passion in providing accessible, transformative educational experience to underprivileged individuals, including adult, returning, and traditional students. His career at California State University, Domingos Hills, included serving as the executive director of the California African American Political and Economic Institute, CAAPEI, chair and professor of Africana Studies, chair of the Academic Senate, chair of the General Education Committee, and director of the Institute for Global Intercultural Peacebuilding. He is also a member of the board of directors for the National Council of Black Studies, and he has maintained strong ties with African people and organizations in the diaspora. He works closely with African American and continental African elected officials, African consul generals, ambassadors, black churches, non-profit organizations, and chambers of commerce to create opportunities for developing black communities in the US and in Africa. Professor Furusa has established public-private partnerships that are providing incredible internships and job opportunities for students. Before joining California State University, Professor Furusa held numerous positions ranging in scope from high school principal in Zimbabwe to a national role as chairman of the Zimbabwe Literature Curriculum Development Committee. Amongst Professor Furusa's distinguished awards for professional and academic accomplishments are the prestigious California State University Domingos Hills Lyle Gibson Distinguished Teacher Award and Excellence in Service Award, the Carson Black Chamber of Commerce Education Award, the Sheikh Anta Diop Award for Outstanding Research in Africana Studies, Certificate for Appreciation for Outstanding Teaching and Contribution to African People's Struggles for Cultural Liberation, the Frederick Douglass Award for Outstanding Contribution to African Communities, the William Alexander Little and Monica Little Award for Outstanding Development of Student Scholarship, and the Outstanding Professor and Mentor Awards. Professor Furusa is an established and esteemed scholar, prolific author who has written dozens of articles and books. His recent publications include Identity Construction and Misperceptions on Being Black in South Africa, 2014. The Borders in All of Us, New Approaches to Global Diasporic Societies, 2006. And African Womanhood in Zimbabwean Literature, New Critical Perspectives on Women's Literature in African Languages, 2006. Professor Furusa received a Doctor of Philosophy degree in African Literature and Critical Theory, and an MA and BA honors degrees in English, all from the University of Zimbabwe, and a diploma in education from Bondov Teachers College in Maswi, here in Zimbabwe. Professor Furusa said.
Let me begin by thanking Dr. Gwekwere for that warm welcome. I'm sure you agree with me that Africa's future is in great hands. If what we see in Dr. Gwekwere is a representation of the youth of Africa. So thank you so much. I would like also to thank the conference organizers for this wonderful occasion where we come together to deliberate, as Dr. Gwekwere said, about the issues that pertain to our reality and our humanity. I'm really humbled and honored this morning to be invited to provide opening remarks for this 4th Afrocentricity International Conference under the theme, Reclaiming and Recovering Our Stolen Legacy, Building a New African Consciousness and Reality. What makes this occasion particularly special is the fact that we have here present Dr. Molefa Sante, the founding and preeminent theorist of Afrocentricity. Dr. Asante's intellectual achievements and insights are expressed in over 60 books, 26 book chapters, and over 100 scholarly articles. Dr. Molefa Sante has demonstrated commitment in constructing, enabling, and liberating African communities on the continent and in the diaspora. He does not worship traditions that do not serve us well. In actual fact, he advocates that we take the globe and turn it over so that we see all the possibilities of the world, where Africa and African people are actors in their own history and historical developments, rather than victims in other people's life dramas. So I thank you for being at this conference. I'm humbled by the presence of my colleagues in the US, by my mentors here, my colleagues at Africa University. I have one of my colleagues at Africa University who is here too. My colleagues at University of Zimbabwe and the other sister universities here. And also by the presence of our brothers and sisters from other parts of the world. I would like to take this opportunity to bring you warm greetings from Africa University, a Pan-African university with students and staff from over 31 African countries. I often tell people that Africa happens at Africa University every day. And I tell people, for those who want to invest in Africa's development, invest in Africa, and you will indeed invest in Africa's future. I welcome each of you to this very significant conference. To those who are coming from outside Zimbabwe, special welcome. Feel at home. Africa is for all Africans. The theme of this conference raises 3 fundamental points. First, that we need to recover our legacy that was stolen. 2, we need a new consciousness that is African, and that's important. We need to build a new reality that is also African. These points speak to the 5 foundational concepts that Dr. Asante had in mind when he crafted the conceptual framework of Afrocentricity. 1, centeredness in one's own culture. 2, orientation towards the good of one's people and humanity. 3, perspective as an Afrocentric way of understanding and approaching the world from a centered and correctly oriented position. And 4, victorious consciousness. 5, agency, which is the capacity and will to act as self-conscious agents of cultural and social change. This conference provides a great opportunity to unpack the ideas and strategies that would help us to achieve our mental emancipation and start the beautiful work of recovering our legacy and achieving African emancipation in the fullest sense of the word. We have been living in borrowed spaces, even on our own continent, for too long. Dr. Maulana Karenga tells us that the borrowed space has deeply distorted our history and fossilized our thought and practice in a Eurocentric framework. Hence, we are unable to contribute in any meaningful and masterful sense to the multicultural unfolding and flowering of humanity and human history in collaboration with other people in the world. Our task as African intellectuals and activists in Africa and in the diaspora is to help African communities stand on their own feet and start working for their own development, rather than depend on other people to develop us. Such a task involves developing a mindset and strategies necessary for repositioning African people in the world, clearly defining their own developmental objectives and agendas. It calls for exercising the African mind in independent thinking, self-definition, and self-determination, as well as the mobilization of our material and human resources for African social, economic, and political development. This is where the African intellectual, as a researcher, thinker, as a writer, philosopher, and advocate, comes in to help African people look into their own potential and develop it, guided by the principles and ideals sourced from African heritage and history. According to Nana Addo-Pipim-Boadu, the time for Africa to initiate its industrial and economic development through the efforts and initiatives of African states and citizens has dawned. The habit of begging and borrowing should be abandoned. There is need to rethink strategies and implementation plans for sustainable and equitable economic and social development. Africa has the capacity and ability to stand on her own feet, and has the resources to initiate her industrial and economic development agenda. 35 years ago, member states of the then Organization of African Unity, OAU, met in Lagos to initiate what came to be known as the Lagos Plan of Action. During that meeting, they observed with disquiet the overdependence of the economy of the continent, which has made African economies highly susceptible to external developments and with detrimental effects to the interests of our continent. Today, we are still yet to succeed in breaking the cultural and economic tendrils tying us to Europe and America. Development theories, models, and approaches which today's African intellectuals use to define and strategize African development are in most cases imported from the West. The practice and attitude of African intellectuals falls squarely into the Western agenda to unite the world into a global village on European terms to serve European interests. Such global villagization has very little to do with African interests and needs. While it is true that development initiatives depend upon education and training, such education and training should be culturally rooted, practically convertible, adequate, relevant, and applicable in both philosophical and practical terms. Adequate, relevant, and applicable human resources and infrastructural development become the basic foundation to development initiatives at all levels. As we seriously engage the crucial task of building a new African reality, we must ask ourselves, what is the safest and most relevant route for this journey into Africa's renewal? And what resources, knowledge, and skills should make up our limited baggage? The other challenge lies in the area of priorities and practicalities, in identifying appropriate and worthy goals which don't place an intolerable strain on the people. According to Chinua Achebe, building a new African reality requires not merely, or not even primarily, having lots of money to spend or blueprints drawn up by the best experts available. If it were so, Africa would be highly developed, because Africa is the richest continent on earth, yes, having been endowed with the great land and every mineral resource imaginable. Yes. Africa also has its own fair share of billionaires and highly trained and educated experts. Yes. Building a new reality also, in a critical sense, includes the question of the mind and the will. It should also involve creating a new place, a new consciousness, and a new people. Creating an integrated change of societal institutions, political, social, economic, cultural, and educational, according to collective evaluative preferences which may be executed in an evolutionary or revolutionary manner. Okot Pabitek would add that Progress means making life more meaningful and ensuring the maximum participation of every individual in the productive activities of the society, here and now, in politics, economic, artistic, and all other fields of human endeavor. According to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the main aim of the emerging African countries was to establish a society in which men and women will have no anxiety about food, about work, or shelter, where poverty and illiteracy no longer exist, and where disease is brought under control, and where our education facilities provide our children with the best possible opportunities for learning. In 2011, the Council for the Development of Social Science Research in Africa called on African scholars and activist intellectuals and organizations to address the question of Africa's development in the 21st century. It called for research and advocacy focusing on some of the pressing questions that confront African policy and decision-making at international, domestic, and regional levels. What makes the call more urgent and this conference most relevant today is the fact that this century seems to be unfolding the same way the previous centuries have, complex, uncertain, and unpromising. This picture makes it vital and imperious for Africans to theoretically tackle the issue of Africa's future in this century. As academics, advocates, and policy makers, we are challenged to widely and extensively discuss some of the increasingly complex realities like bordered identities, which lead to hostilities between African nation states, between ethnicities, which affect, in one way or another, Africa's development in this century. We need to find ways of untangling ourselves from realities and frameworks that cause instability, violent conflict, xenophobia, and fragmentation on the continent. African identities are framed by colonial borders. African identities that are framed by colonial borders are, according to Frantz Fanon, dragging our people in directions that mutilate them and impose on their minds rhythms that rapidly erase and unhinge them. We need to challenge and encourage ourselves, as Dr. Asante instructs us, to regain our platforms and stand in our own cultural spaces that give us back our internal strength to build our lives and our lands, secure peace and democracy on the continent and everywhere. We need to seriously engage the question of what it means to be African and generate models of existence and development that take into account our linguistic, cultural, national, and ethnic diversities and unity. We bear the responsibility of unearthing, cultivating, and renewing an expansive African identity, rooted in the best ideas and practices, values and virtues, sourced from our various African cultures and realities. This is the work of conceiving and bringing into being a real, solid, and sustainable African Renaissance. This work should take place in our elementary and high schools, colleges and universities, organizations and agencies. It should take place in our villages and communities. Sheikh Anta Diop teaches us that this work is hampered by our colonized mindsets, which are disconnected from African realities and distanced from our collective sense of being. He encourages us to find our soul, our emotions, and our way of thinking, and discover ourselves and eradicate all the complexities and confusions that trap us. This is the noble calling that beckons you and me to take shovels and picks and start the work of repairing and renewing and rebuilding the African world, making it more beautiful and more humane than we inherited it. Frantz Fanon calls on you and me to start a new history of humankind by drawing from the resources within us. It also means, he tells us, untangling ourselves from the European embrace and turn over a new leaf, work out a new concepts, and try to set foot on a new man, and woman in the world. Dr. Karenga reminds us that we must be people rooted and encompass a concept of renewal and renaissance that will raise Africa, return our people to their original greatness, and place in the world and open new horizons of hope, possibility, and progress. With these few words, I wish you an intellectually engaging and productive conference. I therefore declare this conference officially open.
There we have it. The habit of begging and borrowing must be abandoned. Africa has the human and natural resources to develop and industrialize itself. What is the safest and most relevant route into a sustainable African future? Building a new African reality involves a radical mindset metamorphosis. That's how I summarize Professor Munashe's opening remarks. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you.
Now this leads me to invite to the podium the leader of our organization, Dr. Ama Mazama, to come and speak on Afrocentricity International's 4 axes of action, which to me connote that this is not just a theory. Afrocentricity is not just an idea, it is now a movement. But before she comes through, let me just read through her bio. Dr. Ama Mazama is an associate professor of African and African American Studies at Temple University, Philadelphia, USA. She received a PhD in linguistics from the University of La Sorbonne in Paris, France. She has published 12 books in French and English, including The Afrocentric Paradigm, published by Africa World Press in 2003. And then she has another that I can't pronounce. It's in French, and you know, I'm not good with that. But it's published by Editions Menobuk, 2003. She also has published an Encyclopedia of Black Studies with Dr. Asante in 2005. She has also done a translation into French of Marcus Garvey's Lessons in African Philosophy, Message to the People, published in 2010 by Editions Menobuk in Paris, thus making Marcus Garvey's writings available for the first time to French-speaking and French-reading Africans. Ama Mazama has published over 7 articles in French and English in national and international journals. Dr. Mazama is the associate editor of the Journal of Black Studies, which is the top scholarly journal in Black Studies. She was appointed in September 2009 to the Distinguished Council of Intellectuals of Africa and the African Diaspora as the representative of Bodilo and the Caribbean at large. Finally, and most importantly, Dr. Mazama defines herself as a Pan-African and Afrocentric militant, of which she truly is. She is married and has 3 precious children who are here with us today, and whom she is also educating so that they can be perfectly conscious of their responsibilities towards Africa and African people. Over to you, Perat, Dr. Ama.
I'm trying to get my PowerPoint together. Thank you so much. First, I want to say that I'm very happy to see you all here. The room is too small, which is a good sign, right?
That's right. Yes.
So we're very happy to see that the room is full and brothers and sisters. Of course, as leader, co-founder of Afrocentricity International, I welcome you to our 4th international conference. Our first one was in Paris, second one in Philadelphia, third one was in Rio de Janeiro, and here we are for the first time meeting on African soil, which is very special to us. Because we are indeed African people. And we, of course, did not choose Zimbabwe by chance. We had our choice, right? But when we looked around and sat down with Dr. Asante, wondering where when we meet for the first time in Africa, Zimbabwe was the only place. It was the only place for us because of the history of this country and because of what the president of this country stands for, which we very much respect, which we very much support, which we very much admire, because we feel that if all African presidents were as committed to the defense of African interests and of African culture, we would be in a very different position. So we are here to express our support to our brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe and to tell the President, His Excellency Robert Mugabe, how much we respect him and how much we love him. I want, of course, to thank very much the division of Afrocentricity International Zimbabwe for their hard work, in particular the hard work of our brother here, Dr. Tavengwa Wekarere, who has spared no efforts to make this successful. It has not been without challenges. You know how things are. We are wounded people, we are damaged people, we are people who have been trained to lose faith in ourselves, in our ancestors. And so being here has not been without challenges, but here we are, in great part thanks to him, and I want to publicly acknowledge him, and I want to publicly thank him for his commitment, for his boldness, for not giving up even when it was difficult. I also, of course, want to thank all the brothers and sisters who have worked as part of AI Zimbabwe. I don't know if any of them are in the room, but I certainly would like for them to please rise so we can acknowledge them and thank them, or are they outside? I don't know, probably. They are outside, so please let them know that we really thank them from the bottom of our heart. I want to thank, of course, I don't know how to qualify or call him, but my co-founder of Afrocentricity International, who is also our international organizer, Dr. Asante. We've worked together for many years, and we will work together for many more years. Afrocentricity International is the result of our togetherness, you know. What I want to talk about, and we don't apologize for being African people, for being Afrocentric. That's what we are, that's what we want to be, that's all there is about us. We want to be African. We have a passion about Africa, and we have a commitment to Africa. That's why we're here today in Harare, Zimbabwe. Move on. I want to talk briefly about our organization. Since I'm its leader, well, we have 4 major axes of action. One is intellectual, one is political, one is economic, and the last one, the most important one as far as we're concerned, is the spiritual basis of our work, because we understand again that if we do not think of ourselves as sacred, if we do not reconnect with our ancestral spiritual foundation, we cannot go anywhere in life. Intellectually, we are in process and business of creating institutions. I just want to show you this book, which is, oh, there you go, I got it from the guy. It's in front.
No, this, oh.
Anyway, this is a book just to show you some of the work, because we believe that we need to be educated. So we are in the business of producing books for our children and even our adults. We created this book, and in fact, thank you. Dr. Asante, Brother Ibu, and myself collaborated on this book. It's called African Foundations. If you look, it's a book that we've created for children, again, because we don't know much, our children don't know much about who they are, and how can we blame them? We're going to blame them, and we don't teach them. Why? Because we don't see the need to, or because we ourselves are totally ignorant about our own history, because we were not taught. This book also exists in French and in Portuguese for our children in Brazil, so we translated it. Our sisters and brothers here in Bahia were very helpful. So this is what we do together. We're not just complain. We know that we have many problems. The question now, and we are really action-oriented organization, what do we do? Wherever we are, what do we do to improve that situation, right? We try to create also Afrocentric schools. That's one of our goals because we know that our children are miseducated in the schools that they attend. In terms of political dimension, we believe in being involved on the political level because decisions are made that affect our lives on a daily basis. So we believe in being involved in the political process. We are not an escapist organization. Again, we want to see changes. The economic dimension, our goal is to be able to create jobs for our people, ways to sustain ourselves. We started doing that. We've opened small businesses, and we're going to keep continuing doing that. And finally, on spiritual dimension, we created a movement that we call Wikadilo Muya. And I will tell you that we can move on, please. Move on. We've created a sacred book. I'm sorry I didn't bring it. I will bring it tomorrow or later on today. And a glory book and a book of rituals because we don't have rituals as African people that ritualize us. That's why we embrace other people's rituals. And I want to share an excerpt from the book of praise songs to the ancestors. And I will ask you to all stand up if we can have the next one. This is a praise that we wrote for Nehanda. I don't know if I can have some. Yes, please, if you could all stand. You want to read this for us? Do it. I want brothers and sisters to do it for us. It doesn't want it.
Nehanda, you are always alive. You will never die. Nehanda, you who inspire generations and generations. Nehanda, you who bring into existence that which is not seen. See us, your children, clearly and serve alongside us in the mighty Chimurenga of life. And as always, let us be successful, as you have always been successful.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, let's do it together. Nehanda, you are always alive. You will never die. Nehanda, you inspire generations and generations. Nehanda, you bring into existence that which is not seen. See us, your children, clearly, and serve alongside us in the mighty Chimurenga of life. And as always, let us be successful, as you have always been successful. I say, all right. Thank you so much. We just wanted to share this excerpt with you to show us what we are about. And when we talk about reconnecting with our ancestors and paying respect to them and recognizing that without Nehanda and her struggle, we would not be here. Am I correct? Yes. Without her courage and her boldness, we would not be here. So we pay homage to her and we thank her for being who she was. And we ask her to inspire us. Just like other people, you know, our book has many names of ancestors like that, from Marcus Garvey, Shaka Diop, Kwame Nkrumah, and so on and so forth, so that we inscribe ourselves on the path that they created for us. Next, please. Our motto, and I would like us to say it together, is that unity is our aim and victory is our destiny. I invite you to visit our website, www.diabukam.com. You will be very pleased and I'm sure impressed. We have divisions on 5 continents now. We have a division that's being created in Australia as we speak. I didn't know there were black people in Australia, but there are thousands of black people in Australia, and they are becoming a part of our Afrocentricity international family. So maybe that one day our convention will be in Australia. Next year we will be in Cameroon, because we have a dynamic division in Cameroon, and so we'll be there next year on African soil again. I wish to thank you. Can I get the last one, please? Thank you very much for your attention. And again, thank you very much to our AI Zimbabwe division for their hard work and their commitment to making this a success.
Can you please?
The Ankh crosses, right? Which is the Ankh cross is one of the oldest crosses in the world. Way before the Christian cross, right? And it represents really the eternity of life. Because we are people of life, we're not people of death, we're people of life. We venerate, we respect life. And maybe that's why, despite everything that our enemies have done to us, we're still not going after them. And the four on crosses are for the cardinal points. So we are people of the world, the whole cosmos. We call upon the whole cosmos to bear witness to our existence as African people. And the circle, of course, is a very powerful, very prominent symbol in African culture because it represents, again, the eternity of life. Life is an endless flow of energy, and we are part of that endless flow of energy. We were the first, and we'll be the last.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, this is one of the first times I'm speaking before our leader, the Parat Amamazama, and I'm really happy that I'm able to see all of you. And I want to just say to her that I am delighted to be the international organizer for this great organization. And the word Parat comes from the ancient African language, classical language of Chikam. Chikam means the language of Kemet, the language of ancient Egypt. Egypt, as you know, is a Greek word, but we go back to the African word Kemet, the ancient language. And the Parat, the word Pharaoh, which is a Hebrew word, came into the language, but the ancient Africans called the leader the Parat. And so the Parat, in a feminine way, is the leader. So in this organization, one of the things that we projected, and I'm just saying this as a way of introduction, is women as leaders, because women have always been leaders in the African continent. I mean, sometimes we try to suppress that, but if you look back at Nubia, Nubia had 42 queens and only 20 kings. This was an expression very early in the world that African people always believed in the equality of men and women. And I know sometimes this is difficult for us to understand, but we're international African people, and we come and we accept truly that Africa has always been the most progressive continent on the face of the earth. So I just want to say thank you to my brothers and sisters here in Zimbabwe. I was here a long time ago, 1985. I came here first in 1980 after the election, and then I served here for a year as a trainer of journalists. So I love the fact that the people of this country fought for liberation. This is, to me, one of the great stories of our lives. And it's unfortunate that those who were born after the revolution sometimes forget what it was like before. But that is not just only true here, it is also true in South Africa. Those who were born after the revolution don't remember what it was like. But those of us who knew what it was like know that regardless to the what I call family disputes that we may have, it was never like the fact that we were treated like dirt in our own continent, and people basically did whatever they want to us. This was the condition of African people before the Chimurenga, the second Chimurenga. So I come here and I greet all those people who gave their lives, who struggled, who fought for this country, and who made this country, even today, a beacon for the African world. And so I just want to say that. One of the problems we have as African people is that we don't know how to memorialize. And we forget our own history and our own culture. And we respect and honor others more than we honor ourselves. That is a big problem. So I just want to say that, and I just want to say that I come here with the Parat as the international organizer and the Shanudis. The Shanudis are the backbone of the Afrocentricity International. What I mean by that, the word Shanudi, if you know anything about the ancient classical language of Africa, the Chicam, you understand that the word cartouche, which the French gave to us, really is a French expression for what the Africans call the chenou. And the chenou was where royal names were written in these chenous. So when we say a chenudi is a person who is one of the royal people of Afrocentricity International. These are leaders of chapters throughout the world. And so we're very happy that some of our Shanudis are here with us today. I recognize them. I recognize all my friends in Zimbabwe. I have too many to count or to name, to go through the list. But you know who you are. Some of them have been in my home. I want to just thank you for welcoming us here. And Brother Dr. Tavengwa Wachechere has been a wonderful leader. He has done a powerful job for us here. We are delighted and we are pleased with him. He was at the University of Oklahoma in the U.S. and he did a wonderful job there. The people love him to this day. And we were trying to figure out how he could be in both places at the same time. We want to have him in the U.S. and in Zimbabwe, but he's just such a dynamic young man. And I want to just say to him that, you know, you continue on the road and keep working with AI here in Zimbabwe. We appreciate that. Let me say that all of the traits that we need, all of the characteristics we need to overcome Westphalian propaganda. Now I know I'm going to teach you a little bit about Afrocentricity in this little 20 minutes that I have, but I just want you to know that the international structure by which we talk about sovereignty, borders, all these things were developed by the Europeans. Let me back up. Our issue as African people is that we have been cast in a world that was basically not made by us. Even the names we give ourselves. That's why we call ourselves John, Tom, and George. These are not our names. Everything the clothes we wear, it's not our clothes. We've been cast in a world where everything is crafted by Europe. Even the international ideas of politics. So when we talk about sovereign nation states, this is why we get into trouble. When we start talking, people say, you know, you can't be in this country, you can't be in that country. This is all crazy stuff based on Europe and Europe's definition of what Africa is and who we are. And we fall right into the trap. It started in Westphalia. The Westphalian Treaty of 1648, when the Europeans got tired of the 90-year war, they sat down, about 13 of their countries sat down and said, now let's decide what the principles are going to be for international affairs. And that's why they came up with the notion of the sovereign state. We didn't have that before. Monomotapa was not about sovereign state. There was no tradition like that kind. There were kingdoms. We could talk about Mapungubwe. We can talk about the various the Congo kingdom. But this notion of international boundaries and borders and the way that Europe framed it, they created a world for themselves. That's why when I asked for breakfast this morning, the man said to me, do you want an English breakfast? Because Europe created that. They created that. He didn't ask me, do you want an African breakfast? You know what I'm saying? Because they create this notion in our brains that we think that the whole world was structured for them.
Yes.
That's why I love Mugabe.
Yes.
Because he is the great confronter of global white supremacy. That's the symbol he has for black people outside this country. Now, I know inside this country y'all have other, you know, the people have issues inside countries. This is like when people talk about Obama.
Right.
You know, I have my views on Obama. I don't think that he's a figurehead. I think he's a tool. Because he basically serves the interests of the white global empire. So I recognize that. You know what I'm saying? So now there's some internal issues that people have. But I'm saying, what is in the best interest of African people? That's the only question I ask. Is your behavior in the best interest of black people? You can answer that every day. You can wake up in the morning. I'm going to eat breakfast. Is that in the best interest of black people? You know what I mean? I'm going to go downtown and I'm going to purchase something. Is it in the best interest of black people? You know, I'm going to work with such and such a person. Is it everything? Your only Afrocentric question is it in the best interest of Africa? That's all you have to ask. And if you answer that question honestly, whether it is your study, whether it is your spirituality, whether it is your economics, whatever it is, if it's in the best interest of African people. Okay. She said the idea was that I continue speaking. Okay, let me just start. I would have to be quick though. Let me be quick. Here's what I want to do. I want to just tell you about some of the issues in Africa, and then we'll be okay. We have several threats to us, and one of them is the stealing of our resources. Now, you may not be aware, but this has always been an African problem. This has been an African problem because, as someone said, and I think it was Dr. Tavingwa, or maybe Dr. Munash, the problem is we are a rich continent. This is a rich continent. And because it's rich in human resources, in natural resources, rich in fauna and flora. It's a rich continent. Everybody wants it.
Yes.
We have to learn how to protect it.
Yes.
That's our problem. See, and Afrocentricity International is an organization to raise African consciousness. And you know why we've been able to have all these chapters around the world? Because we have one central theme. And I'll tell you what it is. It is not the sixth region of Africa. I wanted to explain that because there are a lot of people running around the world talking about the sixth region. I'm not talking about the sixth region. I don't want a sixth region. I don't even care if there's a sixth region of Africa. You understand? You're here. This is Afrocentricity International. We're an Afrocentric Pan-African organization who don't believe in the sixth region. I don't want a sixth region. That's not my interest in a sixth region. We want the United States of Africa. That's what we want. We want the United States of Africa. And we want the possibility for Africans outside of the continent to be citizens of Africa. That's all we want. Don't give me those six regions. Don't talk to me about six regions. And every time people talk about six regions, I say, well, you're not talking about me. The thing that unifies African people, that brings us together from Brazil and Colombia and France and Panama and Jamaica and Ghana and Nigeria and Ivory Coast and Barbados, wherever we are, is we want the United States of Africa.
Yes, we do.
Now, do you want the United States of Africa?
Yes.
Give us then visionaries. Give us young people who are visionary, who will grow up and not say, I'm just a South African, I'm just a Zimbabwean, you can't come here. We want the United States, the whole continent.
Right. Yeah.
Global, continental Africa. in the vision of Garvey and Nkrumah. That's what we want. If we don't, if we don't do anything else, Afrocentricity International wants to do that. The country is not only rich, the country is young. Yes. We have the youngest population in the world is on the continent of Africa. Do you know that? In just 40 or 50 years, Africa will be the largest population on the earth. Can you imagine that? We got over 1 billion people now, but soon we will outstrip China. The continent of Africa. So when you start talking about United States of Africa and having one continental nation, you talk about I'm able to travel from Cape Town to Casablanca and still be in my own country. You talking about I have a sea coast that is the longest sea coast. You're talking about mineral resources that are African, that are comprehensive, that give us not only one of the most powerful nations on the earth, but also one of the richest, if not the richest country on the earth. I mean, why not want that? Why not want for Africa what we always have wanted for Africa, and that is for Africa to be the continental state that is not only Pan-African, but works in it, but it's Afrocentric. The real issue, and this is why Afrocentricity International is so important, the real issue for us is how do we get people to have consciousness? You see, that's the biggest job. Samora Machel said that, the struggle is a university. But I always say, but a lot of people didn't go to struggle. So they never went to university. If you didn't struggle, you don't know what to do. So therefore, we have to teach them. But you have to teach people everything. It needs to be in our books. It needs to be on television. You have to teach people revolution. And one of the things that we have learned over the years by even working in South Africa is that part of what happened was that they did not teach the people what the struggle was about. They don't even know the names of the people who fought. People forget. So you got to keep doing this. In the United States of America, they still say George Washington, who was the first president, never told a lie. This is part of the teaching. Part of the teaching is that, he never told a lie. They teach little kids this. They grow up believing that George Washington, it was greater than Jesus Christ. And and it's amazing because we condemn people while they live, but when they die, we say, I wish Nkrumah was still here. But wait a minute, what did you do to Nkrumah while he was alive? This is what I say to the Ghanaians. What did you do? Now you beg for it. Yes. Give me Nkrumah, right? Yeah. When you had him. Give me Gaddafi. We said, what do? We betray. Yes. Because we have been taught to betray our leaders. Yes. That's what the European likes. They enjoy that. They put us fighting with each other, and then they sit back and say, they can't rule themselves. You see? Everyone looks out for their own interests. Who cares? Who cares that look, right now in Sudan, in South Sudan, Salva Kiir and Machar are at each other. Who is enjoying this? The Arab cartoon regime. They like it. We give you South Sudan and then look at you fight in ethnic battles. That's what the Arab is looking at. And no, I don't excuse the Arabs either. Let me tell y'all something. You got to know your history. The first people who enslaved Africans were Arabs. They're not the European. The Arabs started enslaving Africans in the 8th and 9th centuries. And they enslaved Africans. And not only enslaved, but made eunuchs of the boy children very early. The Ottoman Empire had eunuchs, African eunuchs, serving at the harems. This is what they did to us. And we want to forget. No, I don't forget anything. I know what they did. I know who these people are. And if we forget and we will destroy. You can never, your interest, your consciousness must be real. You must understand precisely that the people who protect us will be ourselves. Who protects the black people in Colombia? Who protects the black people in Rio? Who protect the children who are slaughtered and killed in the streets of Detroit? Who protect? I mean, no, we have to protect ourselves. We are the last ones standing. Nobody's gonna do that for it. We can't be beggars. The time is out for African people to beg anybody to do anything for us that we can do for ourselves.
Yes.
We're no beggar people.
All right.
What is that? We're the mothers and fathers of human civilization. We gave the world mathematics.
All right.
We created geometry. We built great Zimbabwe. No aliens came out of space like they tried to claim that some aliens came and built great Zimbabwe and then left. Because they didn't believe the black people around here could have done it. You know what I'm saying? And then so we showed them we built not only great Zimbabwe, we built hundreds of Zimbabwe's. And they're all over the area, you see? So we have to teach strong. We have to be like that. Because if we are strong, then we understand what we have to do. Who is able to really see the long arm of white supremacy and the struggle for the resources in South Africa, for example, in Zimbabwe? AI sees all of this. And this is why we call for the United States of Africa now. We need implementing policies to be implemented. President Mugabe has given us reason to hope. Now, I know some people have trouble about that, but I just got here yesterday. And he said South Africa needs a new liberation. I agree with that. I don't see what's wrong with that. I mean, I said, it sounds like reason. It sounds like reason to me. I go to Zimbabwe, South Africa all the time, and I know what he's talking about. I see it. And what we saw in South Africa that they call xenophobia was really, actually, it should have been an attack on the people who have suppressed and destroyed the South African people. These were the white people. This was misplaced. This really had nothing to do with the Africans coming from Mozambique and Zimbabwe or Congo or Nigeria, wherever. It had to do with the fact that the white people still control the majority of the wealth and the land in that country. That's what it had to do with. And it squeezed people into a small space so that they're fighting with African people. They should be fighting with the white people. Who are you fighting with? You know, in America, when they burn down Baltimore, they go to the store and they say, are you white or black? If you white, we burn you down. If you black, you can survive. We got to make a conscious decision. Now, I know y'all don't like me talking like that, but I'm an African American, excuse me. So, because we know these people, we live with them. We lived with them for 300 years. We understand this situation. And if you are not for yourself, you will be lost. So we respect that. I believe in Africans, and I believe in Africa. Why should we give any other people control over African liberation or African people? So Mugabe becomes a symbol for us. More than Obama, he is a symbol for global confrontation of white supremacy. Don't talk to me about Obama, because AI, Afrocentricity International, wrote to Obama, and we wrote against Obama's sanctions on Zimbabwe. We don't understand it. I still don't understand it. Report me. The CIA is here. Tell them. Go back. Tell them Malefi Asante said that he does not understand why Obama has not lifted all the sanctions. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So we just need to celebrate our history and culture and stop romanticizing white people. You know, hey, we need to operate as owners of Africa and give no space to worry. Afrocentricity means putting Africa at the center of your interpretation of everything. And all economics and all politics are relational And we need to interrogate our own systems. AI does not seek to do anything else but to create a consciousness among African people, so that what happened in Cape Town when they pulled down the statue of Cecil John Rhodes and all the other white supremacists, we need to do that. We need to do that all over Africa. I remember one of the things I said here years ago in 1981. I wrote an article about the University of Zimbabwe. I know it's different now, I'm pretty sure, because they used to have a statue of Queen Victoria, somebody, on the campus. I mean, it's gone now, I guess, right? Y'all, anybody here from the University of Zimbabwe? So in 1981, I wrote against it. I said, what is this? If we are free, we're liberated. Why do we have our oppressors, the memorials? What is that about? How can we do that in Africa itself? No, we cannot do that. Europeans will never do that. They will pull down statues of people that may even be support them a little bit. If they're not white, they just pull them down. But it's a kindness. But sometimes we don't understand. So, you know, I'm ending up, but let me just say this. I'm on the end up. My brothers and sisters, we have to lift ourselves up. And I know, I mean, there's some other things that I will hopefully say during the conference, but we got a lot of dynamic speakers in this conference, and I won't say all of them. And so I'll just simply say, we are happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. There are many issues on the African continent. I don't have time. My time is not long enough to give you a rundown of Boko Haram and what's happening with the Ebola issue or in Sudan. But I just want to say this, that one of my big issues these days is Sudan, partly because there is coming a contest between the fanaticism of Islam and the fanaticism of Christianity, fighting on African soil, as this would be the site of the big struggle, where Africans forget their own traditions and fight for other traditions. Some going to be fighting for the Arabs, and some going to be fighting for the Jews. That's going to be the next struggle, and we're going to have to look out for that, because if we don't look out for that, we're going to be lost. Long live Comrade Mugabe. Long live Parat. Long live Parat Amanda. Amanda, my people. Unity is our aim. Victory is our destiny.
When the elders speak, that's what you get. We tend to honor others more than we honor ourselves. It's a contradiction. If you're not for yourself, you will be lost. Gentlemen and ladies, we are going to break for tea.